What's up, everyone? Adam Gelman here. We have another video for Wrestling Trading Cards on YouTube. I have an amazing guest joining us straight from Leaf Trading Cards, Mr. Gregg Kohn. I have known you for, it's got to be 15 years now, and I'm really happy that we get to talk about wrestling cards today, specifically one of the most buzzworthy wrestling card products that has come out in a very long time. We'll get to why that is in a second. I also have my partner in crime, Ryan Shear, joining us as well. Gregg, let's start for people who don't know who you are, if you want to just give a quick introduction and kind of what your role is at Leaf and some of the history and the hobby that you have, how you've come to be in the space that you are, I think that would be great just to give everybody context of your history here.
Sure. Currently, I'm the CMO and Executive VP at Leaf. I came on as Director of Product Development about 10 years ago. Came from Upper Deck, where I was a product development manager for years, as you know, mostly dealing with football and baseball. Years before that, I had a store in the San Fernando Valley for about 10 years, Cardboard Legend, which is still in existence. And just going all the way back, it's been doing this, God, 35 years now.
Crazy
So
how long, how time
that's
flies.
the quick thing behind, as we have some changes at Leaf, but we just moved into a brand new facility, and things are looking really up for us right now.
And you just moved to Texas a couple of years ago, or within the last few years after spending almost your entire life in California, right?
Correct. I've been in Texas now for about 8 years.
8 years. Okay. So that's how much we usually spend time catching up at national conventions. So when I heard you move to Texas, it was kind of a shock to me, just like I'm sure I was in Texas as well and moved to Minnesota. So we're kind of a little bit different. Well, I'm glad to have you on.
Yeah, I love being here.
So I want to start. Let's talk about Leaf and wrestling to like level set here, because Leaf has really come into the arena very, very quickly over the last couple of years. They've had some great products that have been really well received by collectors. What are some of the things that Leaf was hoping to accomplish in the space? Like, what sort of spurred this sort of new venture on, given that prior to this, it was mostly celebrity, some football, baseball, basketball, not necessarily anything wrestling related.
Right. Well, one thing you always want to do when you're a company that's perceived as being smaller is you want to expand your roster. You want to make a portfolio that resonates with all collectors and hobbyists. So, obviously our bread and butter always is multi-sport, draft products, metal, things like that, and Pop Century. But we always felt that there was an untapped area for wrestling, because when you have licenses like Topps had or Panini had, they have to basically stick to their roster and what, AEW, WWE, whatever it is. We have the opportunity to get wrestlers from all everywhere. We don't have to stick to just one group, one licensing body. We can go get wrestlers for everyone we want. And we felt that made a little bit more of a compelling product. Difficult because then you can't use certain things. You can't call certain wrestlers by their characters, but sure, we just felt that we were positioned to make a more compelling product because we can get everybody. We have the opportunity to feature wrestlers in the same product that other companies probably can't. And I think the one that's coming up will actually show that very well.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Go ahead, Ryan.
I had a question on the Leaf Metal preview. We did see a Thunder Lips autograph.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So did you have to go through Stallone to get that?
For Thunder Lips?
Yeah.
No, we went straight to Hulk Hogan.
So that's Hogan's property then?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I was wondering about that. I didn't know if that was part of the Rocky franchise and you had to go through Stallone, or if you had to go through. Okay, that's cool. All right.
No, I mean, it's, you know what? He signed the inscriptions. It would have been different if it's on the card. It's not going to say Thunder Lips, because we thought about that initially and said, let's be safe. He signed Thunder Lips, not going to say it because that is a character name.
Right.
Although it was a longer than that, wasn't it? Thunder Lips, the most beautiful man, or something like that in the world. So, it was a little longer than that. But yeah, we had the opportunity, which we have two different wrestlers that signed, and that's another thing you don't see a lot of in this industry, is inscriptions. And we've gone not just wrestling, but when we just had a recent hockey product with 50 different inscriptions from hockey players. When you guys see the next Pop Century, it's going to be loaded. Not Pop Century, it's actually going to be Pearl Pop Century, loaded with with a Marvel inscription. So we feel that that's been an untapped area, inscriptions in this industry. Unfortunately, based on our model, we don't do a lot of hard sign. So we developed, me and a couple of other people from the team developed little larger stickers that actually everyone that signs them loves them. That allows them to fill in the space. So
They got big hands.
big hands, yes. That's an old. I have a story about that from Upper Deck in the Jordan days. But that's a different day. But
Exactly.
yeah. So we just, but to your question, yes, that's that went through Hulk Hogan. We requested Thunder Lips. We requested Hollywood Hogan. We requested Hulkamania, and he signed all of them.
Wow, that's cool. That's going to be awesome. And, I know you've talked about inscriptions because I think this is the one area that, now that in wrestling specifically, like wrestlers are asked to sign all crazy sorts of inscriptions. We see Pete Rose going and doing his thing with inscriptions. I mean, literally becoming a standard for a lot of these athletes and entertainers. Like I feel like now is the perfect time to sort of get into it and start asking them for these things because everybody signs autographs, right? There's thousands of there's very few people out there besides, who we'll talk about here in a second, who have signed just thousands and thousands of autographs. So none of them are as special as if they are going to be writing something that hasn't been featured on a card before. So sure. I'm right there with you.
Yeah. If you have, if you collect Mike Schmidt or if you collect Hulk Hogan, you probably have as many autographs as you need, but how many do you have with an inscription on it, which changes the whole thing. So that's where you're going to, okay, now we have to have this. No one's seen a Thunder Lips. Now, the Thunder Lips we did, he's going to be in 2 sections in the product with Thunder Lips. One is that duel with Stallone. And we're still working on Stallone to sign Rocky. He's not a big guy with that stuff yet, but we're working on that.
Awesome.
So it'll be, I'm looking forward to it. It'll be a fun product.
I think a lot of collectors, I do a lot of non-sports. That's really my number one priority is non-sports. I do a lot of customs. I have a guy who makes cards for me and I mail him into the signings and stuff like that. And I don't think collectors realize just how much the extra charge is for 5 letters or 5 words. Correct. I mean, you could be talking, and Nicolas Cage did a signing, quote, up to 5 words, $250. That's on top of the $250 for him.
Always on top of that is correct.
Yeah. So, people don't, a lot of collectors don't understand that's an extra thing. You can't go to the National and pay $225 for John Elway and walk up there and have him sign and say, oh, hey, John, can you add Hall of Fame? No, I can't.
Right.
That's $175 extra on top. So to be able to provide this in the product is an incredible boost, in my opinion. I mean, I think you see, share that.
As a non-sport guy, wait till you see some of the ones we have coming up in Pearl Pop Century, which will be middle of next year probably. But I mean, we got Chevy Chase to sign all his characters from his movie. What is his character from Fletch? We haven't signed Fletch. We had him sign from Vacation.
Clark
Griswold. Yeah.
See, to me, I have no problem paying celebrities. I won't pay much more for Hall of Fame because I just feel that's not generic, but most of them sign it anyway. So I want to see stats and I want to see nicknames and I want to see something that's a little different. Like we had Reggie Jackson sign "I Must Kill the Queen"
from Lethal Weapon. That's amazing.
That's amazing. We had him sign off Mr. October, and we had him sign 3 home runs, 3 pitches, but he signed I Must Kill the Queen. And we like that's the stuff I'm looking
incredible.
For. So there's gonna be some fun stuff.
So
that's such a niche thing too. It's so funny.
Not very many people know of Naked Gun sort of drives a lot, like how funny that movie is even 30 years later. Than
no
33 doubt. was 33 and a third the second? It was 2.5 and then 33 and
33 and a third, right.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about Leaf Metal Legends because I think that's really why we're here. Sure. Like conceptually, what sort of drove you to sort of create your real first high-end, super premium type of wrestling chrome type product? What was the sort of thinking process behind the creation of this?
Well, honestly, we weren't planning on doing it. But then when The Rock kind of fell into our laps, Dwayne Johnson, the first thought was, well, we have these signatures. What's the best way to utilize them? And then we bantered about doing a direct consumer, just 30 cards and boom, making money. And I thought, you know what? Why would we do that? Why don't we make a product around it? We have Hulk Hogan, we have Ric Flair, we have John Cena, we have Stone Cold, we have MJF. So let's see if we could build a. Now, my first thought was, we're building a product basically around 6 wrestlers, which is what this basically is. How will the consumer look at that? Because you got to think, is it going to be boring? And I thought, you know what? I don't think it will. I think, first of all, the high-end chase in this is amazing. As you saw the quad auto, and there's other stuff in there. So it kind of came from that was, well, we can build a product around this. To me, it had to be on metal because that's always considered the standard for, I didn't want to put it on regular C2S paper. I wanted it to be metal. So that's kind of how it came to be. So we started planning out some stuff. Okay, what else can we put in this? Well, we got Stallone. That's obviously a perfect fit. We know Shaq's done some stuff with wrestling. We know Floyd Mayweather has done some stuff with wrestling. So we thought, let's keep going from there. Let's see what we got. So we just decided to build a set around these 6 guys. Obviously, Dwayne Johnson's the centerpiece. Let's feature him on this amazing quad card. We have him on a couple dual cards. I tweeted one out. And just see what's go from there. Also, we went with base cards. We haven't done a lot of base cards. We're starting to go more towards base cards in all of our releases right now. But we thought, you know what? Let's do base cards in this because one auto a box. I think it's right now 6 base and 1 auto a box. So, and everything's numbered at 10 or less.
So so it's super limited.
Super limited. So that's the other thing, the configuration. Originally, we were going to do just boxes because we don't have a lot of this. And we're going to do it by the case. So we talked about that and we decided, you know what? It still has to be more of a traditional release than just straight box. So we're going to do a 3-box case. So that's what's going to be, 3-box case. Not many cases around. It's already out for sale.
What is the cost per case usually that a collector would see? Like, do you guys have a number that you were shooting for per box, per case price for collectors?
Well, that's another tricky one because, we didn't know exactly how to price this because even though it's not a lot, those rock labels aren't cheap.
Yeah.
No matter what people might want to think, those are expensive. Now, we would have taken as much as we can get, but they were not cheap. And, getting Hogan and Flair to sign, Flair signed Nature Boy and he signed Woo and he signed 16-time champion. We had to pay for those. So we wanted to keep the price down per case, which is why we only did 3 boxes. This was not offered to distributors. This is when we felt, let's get, everyone involved that has a chance to get this product instead of having, a bunch of, let's say, the same people get it. We wanted everyone to have a chance. So we made it, to directs and to stores and kind of just went from there. But yeah, there's not me. I can tell you right now, there's less than, this isn't cases, this is boxes, there's less than 1,400 boxes total.
Wow. That is an extremely limited product.
Yes. So that's why we thought, make the cases, everyone get a chance to get it. And when you hear 1,400 boxes, you're thinking, well, even if there's only 25 Rock or Dwayne Johnson, those are going to be big money cards. Yeah. The base cards are all numbered, but also there's, I think, 40 Hulk inscriptions. There's 30 or 40 Ric Flair inscriptions, a ton.
Stuff that we don't see. Yeah.
And your worst box, let's say your worst box is going to be a Flair auto to 10 and maybe a Rock 101 base plus 5 other base. That seems like a pretty good worst box to me. And
you have I don't have another name for it, so I'm just going to call it a superfractor. You have superfractor type cards.
Correct.
In this product all over. Yeah.
So there's going to be everything's on metal, and we also have an acetate version. So the base will parallel to acetate. So PETG. We did something that I'm having fun with right now, which is mythical. They're all 101s. So it'll feature, like you saw on the sell sheet, Dwayne Johnson with Chupacabra behind him, or Bigfoot, or Loch Ness Monster, something fun like that. We have dual triple quad inserts. Autographs. We have what I think is cool, which you and I talked about that night, the white light, which is the Pink Floyd looking cover.
Yeah.
There's only 3 copies of each. That's it. And then 1 signed copy of each. That's it. Wow. That one's pretty limited. They're really cool looking. So we think it just gives a collector. Now it is once again, outside of, Stallone, Shaq, Mayweather, and a couple others, it is based around those 6 guys. And we looked at it and we thought, you know what? I think people are going to be okay with that. There's not a lot of filler in this. It's this, you could make an argument, I guess, that MJF is about one of the biggest wrestlers going right now. And obviously the other 5 guys are, outside of
the biggest. Yeah. They are the
couple that we obviously can't get autographs of anymore. the biggest. So I thought it was a no-brainer.
So
So,
what would an average pack have in it?
An average box will have 7 metal cards, 1 auto, number 10 or less, and 6 base, number 10 or less. And the way because we hand pack everything.
Right.
So the way I'll hand pack it is, obviously, if you get a Dwayne Johnson autograph, I could put
the rest of the stuff is probably a little,
it doesn't matter. But if you get, like I said, if you get the box, which I'm not even sure Ric Flair is a good example because he is the cheapest of the autographs in terms of resale value, maybe. But if you get a Ric Flair auto to 10, you're probably going to get at least one of one in that box with it. It could be Dwayne Johnson, it could be Hulk Hogan, it could be any of the guys, but you'll get a 1 of 1 plus a bunch of low numbered parallels. You got to think a 1 of 1 or even a number to 2, Dwayne Johnson is going to sell pretty well.
Yeah, especially for the metal cards, like
right.
Collectors, like that's the thing. This hobby runs on this type of parallel structure.
Runs on the metal.
So, yep. So whoever even doesn't, the autographs historically haven't necessarily mattered. It's having those low numbered metal cards is really cool. So for those who are a little bit maybe wondering, why is it Dwayne Johnson and not The Rock? Do you want to explain a little bit of why that had to happen?
Sure. Well, as far as I can tell, that the name The Rock is owned by WWE. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So I know it's changed names so many times. I just want to make sure. So obviously we didn't want to go into that deal with
legal
that.
battle. Yeah.
He signed the signatures Dwayne Johnson. So that's how we're going to portray him, as Dwayne Johnson. No other reason other than that. Just want to, make it safe. We want to stay true to what his name is on the sticker.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think like the historically Leaf has had abilities to have like a Sasha Banks card in the most recent product. They've had some trademark names. I guess that there was some fair usage rights that were afforded in the way that the WWE contracts were structured, which gave you guys the ability to make those cards versus The Rock, which was completely different, plus the way he signed the stickers. So just want to make sure for all the people out there who are just like, why is it Dwayne Johnson?
Right. It is
now
Dwayne Johnson. It'll say Dwayne Johnson on the card, and that's it.
Yeah, well, I don't think most people understand. Yeah.
I for one am ecstatic that you picked a wrestling picture, because I think you could have gone like movie premiere, red carpet, suit and tie, and there still would have been buzz and they still would have been expensive. But I'm just really glad you got a wrestling pose. Is that WrestleMania 28? Is that the one that's from?
You would probably know better than I would.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember, but I'm just glad you got. I'm glad you got a wrestling.
If we do, we're gonna have a few of his autographs, not many. We only got, as of right now, it's just going to be 30. So a bulk of them are going into the wrestling product, and I saved a couple, which will go into Pop Century Pearl, and you might see him there, more of a suit and tie kind of thing, because that's a celebrity product. We also have memorabilia of him from movies. We have prop worn items from all his movies, or not all, some of his movies. So we'll have an auto of him in Pearl Pop Century, which should go pretty well.
Oh, wow. That's incredible. Yeah, I think and what people don't understand is like the last time The Rock or Dwayne Johnson, regardless of which persona you're using, the last time he signed a card was for that Doom product that was 2004, 2005 timeline. It's been almost 20 years since he put pen to anything in trading card related. So this is huge. Tell me about how this sort of came to be. Like, what made this available to you guys?
Well, more or less when Brian was with the company, he worked a deal out with a certain cause run through his wife for canines. And we provided the labels, contrary to what you might have read. They were brought to him, as you saw in the photo we put on Twitter. He signed the sheet. So we got an affidavit. Everything worked out great. We're hoping to get more. We're still actually hoping to get more. Time will tell. The original deal was for more. And that's basically it. It was just we went through that process and it got done. And
these are not redemptions in the product. These are live cards.
These are live. Oh no, they're in house. I'll put it this way: every sticker on that sheet is scanned from ones we have in house. Those are all from in-house scanned.
So the mock-ups,
yeah, the mock-ups feature scanned sheets from our inventory. So there's no this product won't have any redemptions in it.
Wow. So 100% live, no
100%
waiting for
live.
any cards. Yeah,
No,
this is great.
and it'll happen pretty quick. We're hoping to get it out. We're hoping for late December, but it'll probably be early January. But it's going to happen very quick.
Okay,
So
so
this
you're saying
is
there's about 25 rock autographs total in this
Roughly
product?
about that, correct. And
Okay.
that's going to be spread out among different. So when you pull the rock, he's going to be most likely a 101, maybe to 2. I did, just because the card is so huge, I made 5 different 101s of the quad.
the Mount Rushmore.
There'll be a gold circle, there'll be a gold, a couple other colors, because that card to me is, I put
That's
5
it.
golden, I put 5 golden tickets in the product as far as I'm concerned. Obviously the duel with him and Austin is going to sell very well too, and his 101 for the base. But that's the card. You know, there's 5 golden tickets in there, and I think people, and the odds to pull them are a heck of a lot greater than you get from any other company, because we're making less than 1,400 boxes. So
Sure.
realistic chance. I mean, you're going to have a great chance to pull big cards out of this and have a good time at it. Look, if your consolation is pulling a Hulk Hogan to 10 or less, or Austin, or John Cena, or an Inscription Hogan, Hulkamania, or Hollywood Hogan, I think those Ric Flair Nature Boy cards are going to do very well.
And the
What are we
difference
talking-
there is like, hold on a second. The difference there is Hulk Hogan and Flair can use their names because it's their own trademarks. They own the
Correct.
property. So you're not going to have Richard Fleer or Terry Bollea in these products. This is Hulk Hogan, MJF. It is John Cena. It's all those guys. And I think that in combination with the inscriptions, which to my knowledge, outside of the old WCW autographs that were from like 98, he hasn't signed a lot of inscriptions on cards. There was one and maybe Transcended for the Tops did, but these are very unique in the situation that both Flair and Hogan don't sign a lot like this. And coupling that with that Mount Rushmore card, which I was floored when I saw that, because it can't be made. Like, if you take this to a WWE licensed product, Flair isn't in those products. Hogan's in the products. Rock obviously is a challenge, and then there's Austin. So I think like having the ability to make a card like that just is really a unique opportunity that there may only be 5 of these ever made. So, you know, however you want to go and do this, make sure that that's your chase, because you may never see it again.
And it's funny you mentioned that, because that's kind of also where we built the product around that card. Because when I saw that, like, here's the card we're going to do, we'll build a product around it. And as I mentioned earlier, we are well positioned at the only company that really can do this type of a product. We're the only ones you'll see. So we thought it was the timing was right. Hasn't been a lot of excitement around wrestling. I mean, there was a huge buzz when Panini did their wrestling product a year and a half back. That kind of died a little bit. So the buzz, I'd say, for the last, you'd know better than I would because you follow it better, but maybe the last 6 months for wrestling hasn't been there. So we thought now's a good time to come with something big.
I think, you know, it's interesting you mentioned that, because like, yeah, there was like that huge wave of interest as Panini came in. It did die down, but I think what we're starting to see is like some of the people that stayed, some of the big social media accounts are still buying up really rare and expensive wrestling cards. So I mean, like, even though the wave of interest and all of the secondary market attention that Prism got maybe has died down a lot, it's really brought back this renaissance in a lot of ways of other collectors coming and enjoying the cards, sticking around. So bringing a product like this, where again, The Rock hasn't signed, or Dwayne Johnson hasn't signed for almost 20 years, like anything, regardless if it's a movie card or not. So like having this was something that, for me personally, there's people out there that are like, well, it's Dwayne Johnson, it's not The Rock, I don't want it. But for me, it's like, wow, like it doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter what you think, but it's something that I think has never been available during the time that I've been collecting wrestling cards. It's always the goal that people have been shooting for, trying to see when the Rock is finally going to put pen to paper and join one of these products. And now we have an opportunity to see what the value is now that he has, especially in a product like this, where he's on a card with 4 of the greatest wrestlers of all time. And,
and that's,
you know,
that's the key question is, we don't know what the value is going to be about this. I think that card could be a monster card, that quad autograph. But you mentioned, you know, these new accounts. One of the things we had, look, we're not really going to do any more the best of products. I know you're familiar with the ones we've done in the past, the buyback stuff. We had mentioned doing a best of wrestling. and buying back some of these amazing cards for all these past years and putting a product out like that. But we're not doing those type of products anymore. But that's something we mentioned because of the renewed interest in wrestling the past couple of years.
Yeah. Go ahead, Ryan. You were going to ask something?
Yes, I ran the numbers real quick. If you're talking 1,400 packs or boxes, I guess, you're looking at 1 in 280 for the quad, if there's 5 of them. And you're looking at 1 in 56 for a rock, assuming there's 25. Those
Sounds
aren't
about
bad
right.
odds.
That's amazing, isn't it? I mean,
Those are
and
not
then
bad odds.
it's great odds. And then, like I said, it's every box you're gonna get 7 cards. So it's not like you're gonna get skunked. I'm not sure how it's gonna work for breakers because it's 6 names. So you know, if you're buying into the rock spot, I'm scared to death to know what they're gonna pay for it.
It'll
be a draft or draft.
It'll be a
something
draft
like
or a
that.
hit break. It'll be a hit break.
But it should be fun to see what happens. And like I said, it'll be hand packed. We'll tease out cards as we get them in live.
So what are we talking about cost, do you think?
Well, direct to consumer, not sure. That I can't speak to. We charged, I think, less than $1,000 a case for the 3 boxes, which is what we wanted to keep the cost down. We wanted to give everyone a chance. And we've had people say, wow, that's great. A couple people might have said a little bit much for 7 cards in 1 auto. But I mean, with that checklist, I mean,
well,
it's not like you can charge much
money
less.
that gets thrown around all the time. If you're talking less than $1,000 for a case, we're not going to hold you to it, but we'll use that number just for numbers' sake. You're looking at 1 in 18 cases.
Yeah.
And still great
and
odds.
There's going to be a lot of stuff in those boxes that even outside of the autographs, you were just saying, like, there's stuff on acetate. There's all these other things that are driving
there's a
parallel
ton of
structure.
one-on-ones. There are, I mean, you'll get so many one-on-ones in a run that every 3-box case should get maybe 2 one-on-ones. I'd have to go do the math. I have to look at it again. But like I said, all the mythical one-on-one, we have exotic in there. We have the acetate PETG cards. We have an insert that's called wrestling periodical, which is we're going to do a little play on a magazine cover. You know, the old school ones where you see the guys kind of floating around with their like that. So we'll do a couple fun ones like that. So there's gonna be a lot of cool stuff in this. And, like I said, even if you pull a names case, it would a duel with Shaq and is it Cardle?
Jade Cardle?
Yeah, that dual autograph, and the Mayweather with I have to go look at it, but his dual autograph in there. And then I think there's a triple auto of Hulk, Flair, and Shaq.
Oh, wow.
That's such a cool card. That's cool.
Hold on a second. So you have a dual autograph in this product with Jade Cargill and Shaq from that AEW show that they did together. I didn't know she had autographs in this product. She actually just signed with WWE. Very hot name in a lot of different ways. Really interesting that she's on this checklist. Yeah,
she's on there with Shaq, the triple I just mentioned, the dual, all the duels. There's obviously going to be Hogan Flair duels. There's going to be I thought, which is cool because they kind of, to me, line up together as MJF Flair duels.
Very similar type of a personality.
And we're trying to get images of because MJF wore a robe kind of like what Flair wears. So we're trying to line that up. So we're working on some imaging going on, but it's just going to be a fun product. If you're someone that's into wrestling and you see some of the names on this, and if it works, like obviously I don't know if we're getting Dwayne Johnson again, but we might look at something else to do. We might, I've been looking around and getting, we looked at putting some cuts into this, but the timing isn't right. And to be honest, I had an opportunity to buy a couple of Andre the Giant that just don't fit, and I'm not going to put it on there with half his name.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Obviously, he's a big guy.
Topps it. That's what Topps does.
Yeah, and I just don't want to do that. We extended our window on our cuts to fit the biggest possible, and I just don't want to. If we're going to do him, I want to do it right. So we'll keep looking around for other stuff.
So I had a thought. Every time I see a cut card where they took Mickey and Mantle and basically cut it in half and made 1 of 2 Mickey and 2 of 2 Mantle, which drives me nuts.
Right.
What if you put like redemptions for an 8x10 framed with the cut?
Something we've thought about that. You could also do an oversized cut. I think Topps has done that a few times in some of their products where you just do a larger frame. And we're going to have something like that in Pearl Pop Century, because that one's going to have, we have Abraham Lincoln bench that we bought, and we have, I think it's General Custer stuff, and we have JFK stuff that we bought, and it's going to be housed in these little holders that we got from, I think, CSG is the company that authenticates this stuff. We're going to house those inside a card. The card will be, decently sized. So there'll be, we're going to get into some of the larger stuff. We looked into that a little bit for cuts as well, because some of the cuts, like I have a beautiful John Lennon cut, but it's just too big. So we're going to make an oversized cut of the John Lennon.
Yeah, if you can put together a wrestling cut product, the hobby is absolutely clamoring for a well done.
Yeah, that's one of the things we're looking at in the future, that where if we do another product similar to this, we would incorporate that, especially if you do a product that's got Dwayne Johnson and you come back 8 months later and you don't, what's your pitch?
Right.
So we would do something like buying some of the greatest wrestling legends of all time and doing cuts, and maybe trying to get some actors that have portrayed wrestlers, that new movie that's coming out.
The Iron Claw. Yeah.
Right. With some of the, obviously two pretty big actors.
Now from your neck of the woods in Texas. Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, we'd love to do something like that and go out and buying cuts. And, I'm scouring auctions houses every day for different type of cuts, different type of items.
Yeah.
We'd love to get a Flair robe to cut up, but the last one that slipped through our hands, the money was more expensive than buying a Roger Staubach jersey.
Yeah.
It's expensive.
I mean, and that's the thing, like wrestling gear has exploded in cost. Because if you watch the shows, like, because there's a ton of shows where Flair and Hogan, all these guys talk about, like, hey, I just left these in hotel rooms, I left these with fans, there's people around the country who have museums set up and all these different things. Like, the gear value has gone up dramatically, as every collectible has gone up in the last few years. But yeah. I think you see the traveling show that WWE brings around with WrestleMania, where they have like singlets from Andre the Giant, they have boots and robes and all these other things. There's not much of it to go around, and a lot of the wrestlers kept it or
it's
lost
impossible.
it.
And I'm looking. We do have the last mat that Ric Flair wrestled on. So
from a couple years ago, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be cut up and used as an auto mem card in a product we have coming up called, I believe it's a history book. So he's going to be in that. So we have that last mat. It's very heavy because, people don't realize how much is involved in that, but we did purchase that. And I'm looking all the time. If I come across anything great worn by any wrestler, obviously love to have something by Andre the Giant. And there's a lot of yield, I'm sure, in that.
Yeah.
But
he's not a small guy.
We're looking for it. We're definitely on the lookout. So if you know anyone that's got something, let me know.
Well, I mean, it sounds like Leaf is really trying to inject wrestling into everything, which is fantastic. I mean, if you're putting in a Pop Century and you got your own wrestling line coming up, it's really great. It's a great thing to see, because right now we're in such a lull with the Panini Fanatics fisticuffs. We have maybe Elites coming out, I guess it is, but it's going to be 6 months to a year, maybe even more than a year, before we get any more products to decide who has the license and who doesn't. Right. And I'd like to see more wrestlers. You do a pretty good job with that Continuum set. I love that set, by the way, because it's so random. It's just like we have a
very
bowler,
random, and we're coming down to the end of this year's
pickleball player,
right?
And so I ended up buying the IPC Brutus Beefcake. So I got one of those when you guys released it about a month ago. So
yeah, I think we've done Hogan, Flair, Brutus. We've done Sasha Banks in that. MJF has been in the Continuum.
Right.
You might see one or two more before the end of the year, but once this Continuum ends, we're restarting it next year, but with Pop Century Continuum. So starting next year, and they'll be different. We're going to put them in packs. So Continuum next year will be, you can get a 101 or a number to 10, number to 15. So we're going to make it more of a mystery, but next year will be Pop Century. And the celebrities we've got now, I'm talking about Anthony Hopkins and Gene Hackman, Michael B. Jordan, Brie Larson.
Big names.
We got monster names coming up. We got actually Gene Hackman to sign Lex Luthor.
Oh, wow.
Which would be monstrous. Yeah, so to be on the lookout. We'll start teasing some of that out in the next few months for Pop Century Pearl. It'll be really exciting.
And
I think we need to have, I think we need to have at some point, you guys did feature Taylor Swift cut autographs in a past product. I think we need a Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift dual autograph at some point in the future here.
We already did it. We did it.
Oh, did you? Oh, I didn't.
Well, now you wouldn't have known it because we only did 11 of them. direct to consumer about a month ago called the Book of Love. It's a book card. One side was Kelsey, one side was Taylor Swift, and they sold out. They sold out in seconds at $1,500.
Jeez,
I didn't
I
even
missed
see
it.
it.
That's how fast they sold.
They sold quick. That's all the Kelseys we had. I mean, we've been featuring Taylor Swift as cuts in a few products.
Yeah.
You'll see her again coming up, but we did 11 of those, and they sold like boom, just like that.
Yeah.
We wanted to get them out quick because you never know how long that's going to stay.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So let's talk about the future here a little bit. You mentioned some of the things that are coming out with Ric Flair's last match. You mentioned some of the other things that are coming out in Pearl Pop Century. What specifically around wrestling have you sort of planned out already coming next couple of months, year, as you're looking to build out the next phase of Leaf's presence in wrestling? Whether that's the continuation down the path of the Japanese wrestling combined with AEW and a few other non-WWE names, or give me a little bit of a preview there.
Well, honestly, for us with Leaf, to be 100% honest, we aren't sure yet. We're confident about this metal product. We think it's going to be fine, but we're more of an opportune company. So if something comes to us, if something arises for us that is potentially an entire product, like if we have a list of 60, 70, 80 really good names, we'll do another metal product, or we'll do another Origins product type of thing. When we had that wrestling product, that Blaster out now, it seemed to some people liked it. It had the autograph was a little strange, but it had a lot of deep roster of signers in that. The Blaster product we did about 3-4 months ago. So for us, if we have the opportunity, I'd love to do wrestling. They're always going to be featured in our multi-sport for sure, because we're going to have the names like Flair and Hogan and Cena. But as far as an entire product, we want to make sure we have enough to make it compelling to do a full product, to do some fun stuff. Who knows, if we get a big enough name, we might do a Pearl wrestling. We might, there's a lot of things that we can potentially do. We just want to make sure we have enough to make it compelling.
Yeah, that sounds awesome, man. Like, I think we are fully on board with a lot of like those types of products where it's something special and it's something unique. So definitely on board with that.
And
tell me a little
be
bit.
Big part of it.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about, you mentioned cuts, you mentioned some of those other things. Like, what do you look for as you're bringing on sort of new names and stuff? Like, what is really driving? Like, even you've talked about Pop Century, you've talked about a lot of those different names that you're trying to bring in for the product. Like, what specifically do you look for? And this is a bang for buck type of thing where we think this is a big upcoming name, or you're looking more on the legend side? Like, what drives sort of Leaf's interest in bringing people on?
Well, honestly, one of the things we look for the most are names that no one's had. Because I think that there's always going to be interest in names that people haven't seen, or at least seen for a long time. You just heard Panini announce Tim Duncan, which is huge. Guy hasn't signed. That's the kind of stuff we're looking for, where someone who has maybe not signed, like Dwayne Johnson, or in the, as far as wrestling goes, as outside of him, most of the big wrestlers have signed. They've been featured. They're, you've seen them. So we're trying to get names that haven't. We're trying to do things that, one of the things I've discussed potentially is doing a combat product, which will match boxers, wrestlers, MMA. So that's might be coming next in terms of our things, because we can marry all that together and do a combat. And
that's
I've done
cool.
combat quads.
I don't think anybody's done that before. Yeah.
No, and I think that'll work. I think for us, it fits our model. As long as we have enough compelling names, like we are exclusive now at the Muhammad Ali estate. We're having a Muhammad Ali product coming out in about 3 months, where every box will feature a cut autograph, a fight memorabilia, and 10 metal base cards. I mean, you're getting an autograph of Ali in every box.
Wow.
So we could do a situation where we do a product where it features Ali, Mike Tyson, Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, cuts of Andre the Giant, Conor McGregor, we have a deal with right now.
Right.
Floyd Mayweather. I mean, it could feature combat from every aspect in one cool fighting product.
Have you managed to get Logan Paul to sign anything yet?
No, not yet. But doesn't mean we won't. The one thing about us is we're I feel for the size of our company, and we're growing, we are the best at getting that kind of stuff. If someone can get it, we
Right,
can.
that's why I was asking. Yeah, it's like you have these signatures that like
Right.
I just see them in Pop Century. I'm like, oh my God, how did they get that guy to sign or that person to sign? And it's just like I think there's a couple of people like Bad Bunny and Logan Paul and like those guys that have wrestling backgrounds now, but are really, really important names in the grand scheme of like popular culture. And like it'd
Right.
be really cool to see them in some of these products, right?
And I'd love to get, to be honest, we're trying to get Cyndi Lauper to sign for the wrestling. I mean, when I was
Oh wow, yeah.
in my early teens, I remember her with Lou Albano, and he was in her "Girls Just Want to Have Fun" video.
Yeah.
So that kind of stuff. Going back into the one other thing you'll see a little bit, and this will be in a product called Magnificence, which is only 5 or less. We're going to do a couple of triple panel book cards where it'll be a ticket in the middle of the panel of a match, and the two guys signed like Hogan and Flair or someone like that were in that match.
Wow.
So stuff like that we thought would be cool to get tickets from some of these events, some of the older ones.
New
Feature
market, yeah.
card.
Yeah, that's a
So-
brand new market.
Yeah.
Let me ask something. The Conor McGregor thing is interesting because McGregor, the last time McGregor signed for Topps was 2017. And a lot of those are redemptions, and I know they didn't get filled. So how is it that Leaf is able to get a guy like Conor McGregor where the other companies can't?
Well, I'm not so much sure they can't. Maybe they're not making it, these other companies. Look, I was at one of the company like that for 10 years. There's so many priorities and so many things you have to worry about, and licenses and approvals. Whereas our main focus is getting these people to sign, paying what it takes. Maybe we paid a little bit more. That, who knows? I'm not sure we did, but it could also be that and this is one of the, I know people harp on the stickers, but one of the advantages of stickers is you send them the stickers, you get the stickers back, then you build the cards around them. If you do hard signed, and then you send the cards out and they could lose them, or they decide they don't want to do the deal, or the deal falls through, then you risk putting redemptions in for cards you may not get. Happens to every company, but that's one thing that we avoid with the autograph stickers. That's why we went to the oversized for inscriptions. We want them. We want to make sure we get them. We want to make sure we feature them. We want to make sure we don't have redemptions for them. So that might have happened where they thought they had a deal, made the cards, deal fell through. Because Conor McGregor, it could be a situation where he at the last minute said, "I don't
loses
like
interest." Yeah.
So we make sure we have a deal offer. Look, we thought we were getting John Bone Jones autographs. We had an agreement. I put him on a checklist. He didn't return his labels, but fortunately we didn't stick. Obviously we had the opportunity to just toss him. Didn't put him in the product, didn't make a redemption for him. Because how do you know you're getting them? You can't trust that. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden now you have to replace a very expensive guy 100 times in a product. So we just got rid of those cards. Didn't worry about them. Didn't come through.
Yeah, and that's really an interesting point because redemptions are a very hot topic, and they have been since you were at Upper Deck. I mean, you've gone through a lot of this stuff throughout your hobby career. Leaf, I gotta say, like if they're love it or hate it, Leaf rarely has issues with fulfilling cards. There's been other things that have popped up here and there that collectors have brought to the forefront, but there's one thing that Leaf does really well. It's fulfill redemptions, and I even like the that when you redeem the card, you don't know what parallel you're going to get, and it's just like it adds a level of sort of mystery to it, and keeps those redemptions affordable for a lot of people to get. Maybe they buy the redemption at a base price, but end up with a card out of 5 or something like that.
I've actually slow rolled when I've gotten Leaf cards in the mail. Like I'll
right. That's exactly what it's like.
I'll slow roll it to like my Harrison Ford. So
right. It's funny. We've even discussed putting redemption cards into packs as a pack. Like you get a pack in the mail. Because it is kind of a slow roll. It is kind of I don't know which one I got. And I feel bad when people get redemption, so maybe you want to dress it up a little bit and make it feel like it's another experience.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. So just to put a bow on this, Ryan, did you have anything else that you wanted to ask?
I really like that instead of having a redemption for a specific parallel level, I like just throwing it in the pond. Just have it all just be one card.
Right.
It takes all the guesswork out of it. It's super simple. And more often than not, if you buy a redemption for a player and you get the base autograph, then you got what you paid for. And if you get something else, it's just icing on the cake. Right. I like it. And it actually makes it fun to get the card. So
So you won the Pete Weber thing, didn't you?
I did.
I'm like, God, this face, he's so familiar to me. It was so busy at the booth. I'm like, that's the Pete Weber guy.
Yeah, that's me.
Okay.
That's me.
I was wondering. I'm like, I'm trying to remember.
He's famous.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
so
was fun. All right,
that
good.
was awesome. That was, and that's like the interactive stuff that was so fun. I actually I practiced that. I had my wife videotape it, and I put it side by side with the actual rant. And I wanted to make sure I got all the mannerisms down. And obviously I did a pretty good job.
Pete loved it. He talked about it the next day.
Oh, that's great. I love it.
Yeah, he's such a great guy.
You made an impression. Ryan makes
Great
an impression in many ways.
Bad, sometimes good, sometimes bad. But I ended up my buddy who was with me, Brad, it was his first national. And I said, when you guys announced it, I texted him. I said, dude, we're gonna win this. And he's not the type to go out there and do that. So I was like, I got it. So when you guys and on top of winning it, you guys got a hold of me super quick, and I got that shirt like next day.
Right. We went, we had it ready to go.
I mean, that was awesome.
Cool,
literally next day, FedEx and UPS knocked on my door, and here it was. I had it framed up for him, and I surprised him, and I gave it to him. So I said, this is for when you buy your first house. So when you buy your first house, don't come bother me for a gift. This is what it is.
There you go.
But it was so much fun. We had a great
I'm glad. It was a blast.
Yep.
So let's wrap this up here. Gregg, I again, thank you so much for your time tonight.
My pleasure.
I know you have a majorly busy schedule. Hopefully we're having the main event again in Cleveland here coming up. I hope you guys can be a part of it and come and enjoy with all the wrestling collectors that are out there. So I thank you for all of your insights, all of your fun previews, the explanation on sort of what went down with The Rock. I mean, all really great info. Tell them if you want to just give any further plugs or tell them where they can find you on social media, maybe interact with you a little bit if they have additional questions.
I'll answer anything. Obviously, you can find me at Scooby Cub on Twitter. That's the same I've had for years.
Long time.
I think on Instagram, it's well, obviously you want to visit our Leaf trading cards because everything will come on that one. Same with our Instagram. I'm Hobby Card Vana on Instagram. And just you can email me too, Greg@leaftradingcards.com, 2 G's at the end. Ask me anything you want. I'm
He's the most accessible guy in trading cards, and it's awesome. I've known him forever. I mean, we go back to the days in talking about football and basketball and baseball at Upper Deck. I mean, I can remember, back when my blog started, like one of the main contacts I had and valued was Gregg at Upper Deck, and we've stayed close ever since. So thank you so much for always being accessible to the hobby and making Leaf continue to be one of the more accessible companies that are out there. Keep an eye out for Leaf Metal Legends Wrestling. There we go. And we will continue to cover that on WTC, on this YouTube, as well as I'm sure on Twitter and all sorts of social media. Thanks again, Gregg. Talk to you soon.
My pleasure. Take it easy, guys.